Hello everyone. So in the previous session, we spoke about an introduction to the memory management strategies. We spoke about the concept of address binding, how an address is bound to a process, whether it's during the compile time or the load time or the execution time. And we spoke about the logical address and the physical address and the hardware component that takes care of making sure that the processor always points to the right address of the process it is executing. We understood the concept of dynamic loading and dynamic linking, and also the concept of swapping, right? Where a process is rolled out and rolled into the main memory, and how the context switching is bound to happen with a great expense, right? So in today's session, we are going to talk about contiguous allocation and fragmentation. So these are the two topics that we would be basically covering. So we all know when I say a main memory, there would be a n number of processes that would be piled up, which are basically the user processes. And we have the operating system also being part of the main memory, right? And always in most of the scenarios, an operating system is placed in the lower memory addresses with interrupt vector, right? So when I say this is the memory, you would have the address, lower address over here, let's say it is 0, and the address grows in towards the down direction. So we have the operating system usually held at the lower memory. And then we have all the application program, that's a user program that has to be executed by the CPU being below it. Okay, so all these processes would be the user programs. Right? Now, when I say user program is residing in the main memory, how is it being placed? Is it placed in the contiguous way? Okay, when is it placed in the continuous way? Or is the process being broken up in such a way that part of the process is being placed in different memory location? Okay. So we will talk about the two way of allocation, whether it would be a single allocation method or it would be a multiple allocation method. So if you look at this diagram, we have one process, say P1, okay? And below it, we have the operating system, basically the kernel, which is occupying the lower memory address, okay? So here what's happening, the process P1 is of size 20K, right? So this process, without being broken into pieces, is placed entirely onto the main memory. So that time I call it as a single partition allocation. Okay, so the process is not broken into different, is not partition. It is not broken into pieces. The entire process is placed in one contiguous allocation. Okay, so over here, if you look at this particular image, 20 kilobytes is taken care by the operating system, and other 20 kilobytes is taken by the process P1. Okay, so here basically when I say 20 kilo, operating system totally is 60 kilobytes. Out of that, the main kernel is basically 20 kilobytes. So this entire space is 20 kilo. And P1 is a process which is of 20 kilobytes. So it starts at the location 61. Okay, let's say it's 60 itself. It starts at the location 60 60K and ends at the location 79. Okay, so free space starts from the location 80. So it starts from 60 and ends up 79. So that is basically total of 20 kilobytes that is assigned to the process P1. Okay, so when I am allocating without breaking up the process, that I'm going to call it as a single partition allocation. Okay, but how do I make sure that the address generated for this particular process is always greater than or equal to 60 and less than 80, right? If the processor generates any other address apart from the address with between 60 and 79, then it is basically pointing to a different content altogether. It's not executing this process. So as we already spoke about in the previous class, we basically have the hardware support which makes sure that the CPU points to the right instruction that has to be executed. So right now, let's say it's executing the process P1, right? So there are two registers which takes care of write address generation, and that is nothing but the base register and the limit register, right? So base register will contain the smallest physical address. When I say smallest physical address, it's nothing but it will contain the point from which the process will start. So that I call it as the smallest physical address. Limit register is nothing but the range of the logical address. So here, what is the range? 20 kilo. So when I say 20 kilo, what is the logical address? It is 0 to 19. The logical address is 0 to 19. Okay. So how does this mapping happen dynamically? So the processor produces the logical address and it checks if it's less than the limit address. So in this example, what is my limit? 20 kilo, right? So any address generated by the CPU, it will check if it is less than 20. Why do I check less than 20? Because my logical address starts from 0 and ends at 19. Okay. So since it is less than, let's say I produce address 12. 12 is less than limit address. If it is yes, then you add up to the base register value, or the name is relocation register. In my case, what is the base register value over here? It is basically 60, right? So 60 plus 12. The address what is generated by the processor will be what? 60 plus 12 will be 72, right? So is that 72 right address for which my process is being fetched to be executed? Right, because 72 or so whatever would come, the address would be somewhere within this particular memory space. So that time I'm very sure that the address what is generated is the right address which is pointing to the process P1. If it is an address which is below 60 and greater than 79, that time I would basically, it would, an error would be raised, which would be reported to the operating system, right? So there is a hardware support which we had discussed in the previous class, but the reason of discussing this here again is, here I'm not breaking the process into pieces. So since it is a whole chunk of data, a single chunk of data which is placed in the memory, this hardware unit is good enough to make sure that the right process is executed by the CPU. Okay, so here I've just told the base address is 60 and logical address will start between 0 to 19 and the limit register is 20. So as long as this is less than 20, okay, so it adds up to the base address, that is 60, and that will give you the physical address. Okay, so this hardware support will be good enough for which one? For a single partition allocation. Okay, but how about multiple partition allocation? We'll have a look at that. Okay, so hope the single partition allocation where the process is not divided into pieces and it is taking the whole lot of memory to place its entire process. Next, we move to multiple partition allocation. So one of the simplest method of allocating memory is to divide memory into several fixed or variable sized partition. Okay, so here what happens, I have the memory divided into partition. Either it is of fixed size or it is of variable size. Each partition may contain exactly one process. I design in such a way that each partition, what I have done before, can hold only one process. Thus what happens, the degree of multi-programming is bound by number of partition. So what happens here, if in case I have 3 processes which is moved into the memory and I have 3 CPU, then there is multi-programming happening because simultaneously 3 programs can be executed. So the degree of multi-programming can be done in this case of multi-partition allocation. Okay, so here what happens, let's take the example of this first block. I have the OS residing in the lower memory and I have process 5, process 8 and process 2, right? So if you look at this diagram, you can see process 5 and process 2 could be of almost the same size, where process 8 is of a of a bigger size compared to the other two process, right? So here the OS is being divided in such a way that, sorry, the main memory is divided into having variable partition size. Okay, as because we know each process would not have a definite size, it could vary, right? So before placing this process 5 and process 8 and process 2, we consider this as n number of holes. In this case, there are 3 number of holes. That's nothing but, holes is nothing but block of available memory, and holes are of various size which are scattered throughout the memory. Okay, so just assuming that these 3 processes are not there, I say there are 3 holes which are of different sizes. As process 5 comes, it occupies this hole. As process 8 comes, it is a bigger chunk, so it occupies this. Then process 2 occupies this hole. So we say that there are no holes available, since the 3 holes, available holes, are taken care by 3 process. Now let's say the process 8 is done its execution, and the process is terminated. So naturally that place which was allocated to that process is now freed out. Okay, so now you see there is one hole which is created over here. Okay, so when a new process comes in, so this new hole which is created can be allocated to that particular process. So now which process is coming? Process 9. So process 9 was not as big as the process 8, so it takes up only that portion of memory which is required, and then there is a rest remaining leftover hole that can be used by any other process. So next in this diagram you see the process 810 comes in, so which occupies lesser space, and still we have some amount of memory which is left out. Okay, so let's say process 2 finishes its execution and it moves out. Once the process 2 moves out, you will see this plus this memory will be combined together, and one big hole uh, can be generated. So the operating system makes sure that it has all this information, like which are the place that is already allocated to the process, and which portion of the memory is free, or which portion of the memory is basically a whole. Okay, so that happens in the multi-partition allocation. Okay, what happens in multi-partition allocation? The entire memory is divided into a variable or fixed partition size, uh, which can be used by the process which is basically coming in, and it can occupy that particular hole that is being freely available. Okay, so operating system maintains information about allocated partition, what are the memory that is allocated, and what is the free partition that is available. Okay. So now what happens, you might have a question like, does it goes in a sequential way, or does it take up any hole that is available? So is there any systematic way of allocating the holes to the upcoming or the incoming process from the input queue? How do we do it? So there are 3 ways that you can satisfy a request that is coming. The first one is called first fit, and the second one is best fit, and the third one is the worst fit. Okay, so let's try to understand. First fit is allocate the first hole that is big enough. What do you mean by that? Let's say a process P1 which is of 20 kilobytes comes in. Okay, so first it will go, it will look into the memory. Let's say the first hole is 10 kilobytes. Can that 20 kilobyte fit into the 10 kilobyte hole? No. So it moves down and see if there is any available, let's say the second block is of 30 kilobytes. So can that 20 kilobyte fit into the 30 kilobyte? Yes, right? So the 20 kilobyte goes and sits into the 30 kilobyte hole. Okay, so the first hole that is big enough, which is allocated, that I call it as a first fit. Okay, first, whichever is first freely available, that you allocate, and that you call it as a first fit. And next one is best fit. Allocating the smallest hole that is big enough must search the entire list and use list ordered, and unless ordered by size. Okay, now I took this example. Memory has first 10 kilo hole, and then it has 30 kilo hole, and then let's say it is 25 kilo hole. Okay, 3 holes are there, 10 kilo, 30 kilo and 25 kilo. Now let's say a process which is of 20 kilo hole comes in. Okay, so the first one is hole is 10 kilo. It can't fit in the 20 kilo process. Next hole is 30 kilo. The 20 kilo process can be fitted into the 30 kilo hole, but there is a remaining hole of 10 kilo. If you place that 20 kilo hole in 20 kilo into the 30 kilo, 20 kilo process into the 30 kilobytes hole. Next one, you have a 25 kilobytes of hole or memory partition. So if you place the 20 kilo process into the 25 kilo process, then there is only a 5 kilobytes of memory that is remained, right? Compared to the previous one, it will make a whole of 10 kilo, but this will remain retain a whole of which is of 5 kilo. So that time I call it that as a best fit when I take that 25 kilo hole. So allocating the smallest hole that is big enough. Okay, compared to the 30 kilo hole, it's better to put that 20 kilo process into the 25 kilo hole. That I call it as a best fit. What is worst fit? When I allocate this 20 kilo process, let's say there is a 100 kilo hole. If you put that 20 kilo to the 100 kilo hole, then there is a huge hole that is remaining, which is of 80 kilo. That time I call it as a worst fit. First fit and best fit better than the worst fit in terms of speed and storage utilization. Okay, so what are these are different ways basically you can satisfy a request of the incoming process based on the size of that particular process. First fit, best fit and worst fit. We will try to understand better with the help of an example. Okay, next we move on to the concept fragmentation. Okay, what basically you mean by fragmentation? See, in the previous slide, when we spoke about the different ways you can satisfy a request, right? I gave an example that when a process is placed in a hole, there might be a gap that is being generated, right? Okay, or let's say you have a big process that can't fit into any of the existing hole. Okay, so that time a situation where you can't fit in the incoming process to the memory, or you can fit in a process to a memory but that generates a hole internally, that we call it as fragmentation. Okay, so there are two kinds of fragmentation, that is external fragmentation and internal fragmentation. What we mean by external fragmentation is, let's say the total memory space exists to satisfy a request, but it is not contiguous, then we call it as an external fragmentation. I give you an example. Let's say there is a hole at the beginning of 20 kilobytes, and then somewhere in between I have a hole of other 20 kilobytes, and somewhere at the bottom of the memory I have a hole which is of 20 kilobytes. Now let's say a process which is of 60 kilobytes comes in and want to be placed in the memory. Now the whole size of the process is 60 kilobytes. Here in the memory we have 20 plus 20 plus 20 free holes that are available, but you can't place this in a contiguous fashion into the memory. You can't place the process into the memory in a contiguous way. That time we call it as an external fragmentation. Okay, so which request would suffer external fragmentation? It could be the best fit and the first fit. Why do you mean so? You know what happens in the best fit and the worst fit, right? So the holes are generated, right? So since holes are generated, when you try to put in a huge memory into that holes, you can't make use of it because they are small enough which can't fit in the incoming request. Okay, so this is it is a severe condition. In the worst case, we could have a block of free memory between two processes. If all these small pieces of memory were in one big free space, instead we might able to run several more processes. Okay, so okay, now what about internal fragmentation? So internal fragmentation is nothing but when a memory is placed into the free hole, there are small chunks of leftover space that has been generated. Okay, so that time I call it as an internal fragmentation. A 20 kilo process is placed in a 30 kilo hole, so there is a fragmentation of an internal fragmentation which has happened over there, because that additional 10 kilobytes is not used by the process. Allocated memory may be slightly larger than the requested memory. This size difference in the memory internally to a partition but not being used, right? So the requested the process has requested a memory, and that memory is allocated, which is little larger than the process had actually wanted. That time internally that leads to a fragmentation, and that time I call it as a internal fragmentation. Okay, so first fit, what happens in first fit analysis reveals that given n blocks allocated, let's say there are n blocks that is allocated, out of n blocks, 0.5 n blocks is basically lost in the fragmentation. Meaning almost 1/3 of the memory blocks will be unusable because they're very small in size. This they call it as a 50% rule. There is a name given to it. They call it as a 50% rule. Okay, because most of the small chunks of holes goes as unused, though there's free available space in the memory, but that can't be used by any of the processes to be moved into that particular hole. Okay, so that we call it as a 50% rule. So this can be even more better understood with this example. Okay, so now if you can see, the size of each memory is of 100 kilobytes. Okay, everything is of 100 kilo. Now, so what happens, let's say this is a process which is occupying only 80 kilobytes of memory. So what is the free space over here? 20 kilobytes. And the second, you have 90 kilobytes of process. So the free is 10 kilobytes. So internally, there is 20 kilobytes of free hole over here, and here 10 kilo hole over here, right? So that I call it as an internal fragmentation. Okay. Now, I know each size of the partition is 100 kilobytes, but I have a memory which is coming in, and that is of 110 kilobytes. Can I fit into one contiguous block of memory? No, I can place the 100 kilobytes over here, and the additional 10 bytes should be placed somewhere over here or over here. That time I say that leads to an external fragmentation. Basically, it is fragmenting to external other blocks of freely available holes. Okay, so this is what we call it as internal fragmentation and external fragmentation. Okay, so how can we reduce the fragmentation? Is there any solution to reduce the fragmentation? There's a concept called what we call it as compaction. So here the goal in compaction is to shuffle the memory contents so as to place all the free memory together in one large block. Okay, so what happens in compaction? I have a kind of a system built such that all the free holes are made to move at one, are moved together, are made to move into one particular place, so that one large free hole is available. Okay, is it possible? If that has to be done, how can it be possible? Only uh, if the reallocation is dynamic. You'll remember the address is bound either during compile time or the load time or the execution time, right? So what happens in the case of if in compile time and load time, the process has to be placed in the same address that is being generated during the compile time or load time. But that is not the case in the case of in the case of execution time. The address can be it can be different, right? So when you regenerate the new address during the execution time, that time you make sure that the whole are moved to one particular huge are moved towards one corner of the memory. But that is not really possible, right? So that requires lots of design aspects such that the whole is made to move together into one large block, right? So the simplest compaction algorithm, the simplest way you can do the compaction algorithm is to move all processes towards one end of the memory, all the whole move to the other direction, producing one large hole at the available memory. This scheme also can be expensive, right? So when you're moving the programs, you can processes to the memory, you can move in such a way that all the processes are moved to one direction, either to the top, start from the top of the memory, so that you have holes at the below so that it can be used at the later stage. And other solution for fragmentation is paging and segmentation that we would be learning in the some upcoming sessions. Okay, clear? So this is about the fragmentation, right? Fragmentation, and two types of fragmentation, and the way you can reduce fragmentation is through compaction, but that is quite expensive, which requires additional design detail. Another way of solving it is either through paging or segmentation. So let's look into a problem of fragmentation. Okay, so given five memory partition, 10 kilo, sorry, 100 kilobytes, 500 kilobytes, 200 kilobytes, 300 kilobytes, and 600 kilobytes in order. So you have a memory which is having a variable partition, and the partition sizes as mentioned over here. How would the best fit, worst fit, best fit, first fit, and the worst fit place the processes of 212 kilobytes, 417 kilobytes, 112 kilobytes, and 426 kilobytes in order? Which algorithm makes the most efficient use of the memory? So what is these? These are uh, uh, the variable memory space that is available. And what are these? These are the processes which are coming in to the main memory. So how do you place those processes into the available memory partition? Okay, so which process is coming first? A size of 212 kilobytes. When that comes in, let's apply the first fit algorithm. So when 100 and 212 kilobytes come in, okay, so which partition is free? All the partitions are free, but can it be placed in 10 kilobytes memory? Sorry, 100 kilobyte memory? No. Can it be placed in 500 kilobyte memory? Yes, because it is big enough, right? So first one, it is available. So I put my 212 kilobytes into the 500 kilo partition. And what are we remaining with? We will be remaining with 228 kilo. So that is a hole that is formed from the, so what kind of fragmentation it is? Basically, it leads to an internal fragmentation. Now 417 K size processes coming. Can I place it into the first 100 kilobytes? No. Can I place it into the 288 kilobyte, which is caused because of internal fragmentation? No. Can I place it in 200 kilobytes? No. 300? No. 600? Yes. So 417 is placed in the 600 kilo partition, and that also leads to internal fragmentation. Then I have the 112 kilo process with, is it placed in 100 kilobyte size of memory partition? No. Can it be placed in the 228 partition which is newly formed? Yes, you can place this 112 into the 288 kilo memory which was caused because of internal fragmentation. What about the last process, 426? No. Though it comes in, none of the memory partition is freely available to hold that process. So that time the process is made to wait. Similarly, we understand the best fit and the worst fit. Best fit, what happens? Though the process 212 process comes in, it won't be placed in the 500 kilo memory because that would lead to a bigger hole. It leads to a internal fragmentation of a bigger size. Instead of that, go and place that process in the 300 kilobyte so that the the amount of hole that is generated because of that would be of a lesser size compared to the 500 kilo partition. Okay, so 212 goes to 300K. The next one is 417. It can be placed in 500 kilo partition. Then 112 comes in. It can't be placed in the first block, so it goes and placed in the 200 partition. And similarly, the 406 can be placed in the 600K partition. So now in this case, you see all the process is happily occupied in the memory partition. How about the worst fit? Worst fit is leading to a large, you go and take up a memory space which leads to a larger hole. So 212 comes in. So which is a bigger memory partition? 600. It goes and occupies there. Okay, then leading to a 400 and what will be the some 300 and odd space will be remain. Then which comes in 470. That goes and occupies the next biggest, that is 500K. Then 300 and 112 comes in. So it will look for the biggest hole. Is 100, can it be placed in 500? Sorry, 500 is already used. Can it be placed in 200? Yes, it can be placed in 200 kilohertz, but it will look to a larger hole. So which is the larger hole? If you can remember, the first one, 212 was placed in 600. And what is the remainder? It is basically 388, which is very much bigger than 600. So 112 goes and puts in 388. Okay, when the last process comes in, that must wait. So if you look into the three ways, that the first fit, best fit, or the worst fit, you will come to know that the best fit turns out to be the best fit. I mean, the memory is used in a very efficient way. Okay, so this with the diagram I have explained, I think it would help you to understand better. So in this case, I have a partition, memory partition 200, 700, 500, 300, 100 and 400. Okay, these are the partition that is available. How many processes are coming? 315, 427, 250 and 550. So here they've told us to apply what? First fit and best fit. That's all. Now let's apply the first fit. First, which process 315 is put into which one? First, as soon as it come, it checks over here, no place. So it goes over here, 700, yes. It goes and occupies the 700 memory location. So how much is remaining? We are left with 385 kilobyte of space. Then we have 427 kilo coming. So it goes and checks over here. Is this available? No. No. Is it big enough? No. Is this big enough? No. Is this big enough? Yes. So it goes and sits in the memory block, which is of 500 kilo size, and a hole of 73 will be, it leads to an internal fragmentation. Then last one is 550. Is there any block which is good enough to fit that process? No. So that time this process is made to wait until any of the previously allocated thing comes out. Even though if this process comes out, it's not big enough because it wants 550. Okay. Then how about best fit? 315 partition process comes in. Will it take up the 700? Okay, so I missed telling here. 250 is the third process which comes in. So here what happens, though there is a memory of 300, it will not go and sit there because I'm telling it's a first fit. So whichever is first available, which is good enough to fit, it will go and fit there. So 250 will occupy this particular place, which is the remaining portion of 700. What was remaining of 700? 385. So that out of 385, 250 is occupied and other internal fragmentation happens, which gives up 135 free space. Okay, and then we have the last process, which is 550. Okay, so now, so though there are four processes coming, on two processes occupied in the 700 memory partition, and one process is occupied in the 500 memory partition, and the other one is still made to wait. Okay, so same memory, if we apply the best fit, where will 315 go? It will go check which is good enough to, so that a small hole is left over. So in that case, it will go and list fit in the last place. 315 will sit here. 427 will go and sit in the 500 memory partition. 250 will go and sit in the 300 memory partition, and 550 will go and sit in the 700 partition. right? So the memory partition is the same. The process which is coming is also same, but depending upon the fit, the kind of the technique we can apply. Okay, so if it's first fit, then there is a waiting happening by the process. If it's a best fit, all the four process happily executes by placing itself into the main memory, right? So this is how uh, the problems on fragmentation can be solved. This question was asked in 2018-19, and similarly this also was asked in a recent question paper with a mark of around 4 to 5 marks. Okay, so you either have it written in this way explaining, or you can also have a diagram showing up how it has been occupying the memory. If it is just for 4 or 5 marks, having it detailed in writing is good enough. Okay, clear specification saying that which process goes and sits into which particular partition. Okay, so this explains the concept of fragmentation, and we started with continuous memory allocation, understanding what is single partition and what is multiple partition, and we understood the different types of technique, that is basically first fit, best fit, and the worst fit, and also try to analyze it with the help of an example. Thank you.